Okay, so let's talk about something called corporate responsibility. I know, it sounds a little dry, maybe like something from a business textbook. But what if we just called it what it really is? What if we thought about it as corporate kindness? Yeah, that feels better. Let's dive in. And to really get our heads around this big idea, we're going to start small with something you might have had this morning, actually. A simple glass of juice. Seems pretty basic, right? But believe it or not, inside that glass, there's a huge lesson about how our world really works. So just picture a company. Their whole deal is making great juice. They grow the fruit, they squeeze it, they bottle it up, and they sell it. Sounds simple enough, but here's the thing. Every single one of those steps sends out a ripple, and that ripple touches the land, the water, and the people involved in ways you might not even think about. I mean, just to grow the fruit and clean everything, our juice company needs a lot of stuff. And a huge one is water. We're talking a ton of water. Not to mention the land for the trees, the power for the factory, the plastic or glass for the bottles. It all adds up. And this is where that idea of responsibility really kicks in. What happens if the company uses up all the water from the local river, or if the factory puts smoke into the air? What if they don't get rid of the leftover pulp properly? All of a sudden, just making juice has a much, much bigger footprint. And let's be real, this isn't just about our imaginary juice company. This is the reality for pretty much every company out there. Businesses all over the world are using a massive amount of resources, and what they do affects the environment and the communities we live in every single day. So that leads to a really important question, right? If what they do has such a big impact, what's their fundamental duty? What do they actually owe to the world that they operate in? Well, it's actually way simpler than you might think. You know how you're responsible for your own stuff, for cleaning up your own mess? It's basically that. A company is responsible for taking care of its impact on the world. It's the exact same principle, just on a way, way bigger scale. And that difference can be absolutely huge. I mean, companies aren't these separate things living in a vacuum. They are woven right into the fabric of our world. The choices they make can genuinely help or harm all of us and the planet in some pretty profound ways. So that brings us to the next logical question. If a company really decides to take this seriously, what does that even look like? What does it do? What are the ingredients of what you might call a super company? Well, a super company is built on 4 really important pillars. First, it has to treat its workers fairly. That's a given. Then, it has to be a good steward of the environment. Taking care of the planet, not just using it up. Third, it supports the community it's part of. And finally, the foundation for all of it, transparency. They're open and honest about what they're doing. Now, and this part is crucial, this isn't just about companies deciding to be nice when they feel like it. There are actually international frameworks out there. You can almost think of it like a global rule book to help guide them. One of the biggest examples is the UN Global Compact. Now, it's not a set of laws, so you can't get arrested for not following it. It's a voluntary pact. The whole idea is to create a shared set of principles, a kind of baseline for what being a good corporate citizen really means. So what's in this thing? Well, it boils down to some really big ideas. It's about making sure businesses uphold human rights. It's about ensuring fair labor practices, like no child labor. And of course, it's about protecting the environment. It's basically a blueprint for doing business in a better way. But here's the thing. These frameworks aren't just a checklist for companies to tick off to look good. They have a much bigger purpose. They're designed to aim all that power, all those resources that businesses have, toward our most important global goals. And that ultimate goal is to connect what companies do with something massive, the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. Honestly, you can just think of the SDGs as humanity's official to-do list, things like ending poverty, fighting climate change, and promoting equality. Responsible companies are absolutely essential if we're ever going to get that list done. Okay, that is a huge undertaking, which leads to the big question. Who actually has the power to make all this happen? Is it just up to the CEOs in those big corner offices? The answer is, it's a team effort. Yes, of course, businesses have to step up. They have to change how they operate. But, and this is the really cool part, we, as consumers, have an incredible amount of power. Every single time we decide to buy something, we're playing a huge role. When you really zoom out and look at the whole picture, you see it's this entire system. It goes from these huge global agreements all the way down to the choices you make at the grocery store. And it's all designed with one amazing goal in mind, to create an economy that actually works for people and for the planet. So, the next time you go to buy a glass of juice or a new pair of shoes or anything really, just remember this. Every dollar you spend is a vote. You're casting a ballot for the kind of world you want to live in. So the final question is really for you. What kind of world are you voting for?